Today is All Souls Day. This is a very important feast day in the Roman Catholic Church, as well as the Eastern Orthodox and Oriental Orthodox churches, where we pray for the repose of the dead to ensure their peace and their eternal joy in heaven. But I'm not focusing on that today. Today I'm focusing on one particular individual who was audacious and kind enough to share his story with us. And since that is the case, instead of praying for the repose of the dead, which is important, today I want to focus on the reinstatement of the victims of sexual abuse, and that they somehow find a way to regain their life back. So this is the story of Pierre Leon, and he was gracious enough to send me this email, of which I will read to you. Dear Mark, upon entering your channel, I discovered your channel playlist considering the abuse of sexual victims in the Catholic Church. I'm writing to you in the hopes that my story, though it is sad and tragic, it is my hope that it will help somebody that's out there that has still remained silent. I experienced sexual child abuse in the Catholic Church between the ages of 12 and 15. The priest was a young pastor, and he was a close family friend. He was also charismatic, and he was kind, and he was friendly. My parents were very involved in the Roman Catholic Church. My dad was a deacon, as well as a lector, which, by the way, that's what I am as well. And my mother taught Sunday school. I spent a lot of time with the youth pastor. He called him a youth pastor. Pretty soon I'm going to give him a different name, but he was like a big brother to me. He would pick me up from school, and he would take me back and forth to the masses, and he would even cook for me when I was an altar boy after Mass, because he lived right next to the church like most Catholic priests do. He had his own parish house, and it was very nice and inviting. I had no objections to it, and the more time I spent with Father X, the more I trusted him, and the more I became open to him. He gave me gifts. He gave me special attention. He granted me privileges for spending time with him one-on-one. And from a very young age, I was dedicated to the church, and I knew I wanted to learn more and get more involved. So I thought that these special privileges which he bestowed upon me was part of the learning curve, and that he was becoming a mentor. He was someone who was definitely on my side. When I would get into trouble with my parents, he would tell them that I should come over to his house for the night. My parents thought that something may be off with this, but since they trusted him so much, they would give in. They even asked me about it, but I told them that everything was fine, and everything was fine. But now I realized that this was all his dark nature and act of grooming. I didn't say anything at worst because I was worried that he'd get in trouble, or because this was an issue or family of the church. But eventually I was prompted to tell my parents when preparing to attend a weekend with the priest, I must say. I did notice that something was off and asked them about it. That's when I told my parents that I was in a relationship with my priest, and that my parents suddenly came to the realization that what I was in was not a relationship, but in child abuse. I can't remember anything too much, but I can remember one account. After Mass, he took me into his private chamber. He unzipped his pants, put forth his penis, pulled down my pants, and gently rubbed the head of his penis inside my anus to try to stimulate me. I can't remember, but I do think he ejaculated, and I just thought it was a normal practice. Afterwards, I told my parents what slowly began to happen, and they decided to take matters into their own hands, report him to the bishop, which launched an investigation. We've all heard about sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. So through my story, I thought that I could shed light on how this happens, not only in the Catholic Church, but in other faiths. Father X was eventually brought in on 30 felony child sex abuse charges, and he only spent 6 years in prison. Only 6 years. That's it. From what I've gathered over the years, he was exonerated and was moved from parish to parish, and God knows only how many more children he molested and is still molesting. Although last I heard, he was dead. He had passed on a few years back. But after his prison sentence, he was reinstated as a priest, and he was moved to other parishes. It's been very difficult for me to talk about this, but I hope that this brings more people to surface, that it is nothing to be ashamed of, that it is something that needs to be addressed, and the proper authorities need to be notified. Don't hide. Don't be ashamed. Come out and tell your story so that these perpetrators can come to justice. Thank you for bringing this part of the channel, Mark, into your playlist, for it is an important one. Even if you don't get many views, even if you get one and it changes a person's heart, and even a clergyman's heart, it's a step in the right direction. Kind regards, Pierre. So that's his story. I told you in the thumbnail it was going to be graphic. I hope that this has not put you in a position where you begin to hate the church, but that you get brought into a position where you need to pay more attention to what goes on, not just in your church, but in your entire communities. Because we all know that this not only happens in churches, this happens in schools, it happens in synagogues, it happens in universities, it happens in a lot of different places, and it happens in a lot of different religions, and it happens in a lot of different denominations. The Catholic Church is not exclusive with this. Let's understand that, okay? I'm doing these videos not to put a bad light on the Catholic Church. I'm doing these videos because I feel, as a practicing Roman Catholic myself, we do not have enough conversation about this. As I said, today is All Souls Day. But today I want to focus on the victims of sexual abuse. This video today is dedicated to the victims of sexual abuse. And I hope you find your voice, and I hope you make every single attempt that's out there for you to utilize all the services and help that you need, and that you regain your life. You matter and you're important. And while I do pray for the forgiveness of these perpetrators and of these pedophiliacs, because that is what we're supposed to do as Christians, not just Catholics, all religions pray for forgiveness, and I do pray for forgiveness, and that God will show mercy on these perpetrators. But I also advocate that they be punished. Happy All Souls Day.